and then we'll get you on. But welcome everybody, Kyler and Caleb Cook, twin brother creatives. These aren't the sons of thunder from the scriptures, but they're kind of like that. They grew up between the cornfields in the middle of nowhere. Sounds familiar. They love elevating the art of storytelling. Their backgrounds include first place wins in collegiate national storytelling competitions, stand-up comedy. I figured that had to be something in your background, the both of you. Well, I know I can only speak for Kyler. It's a privilege to meet his better half or lesser half. I'm not sure.
Better half.
Okay.
Better half.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do some improv tonight. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Fantasy fiction novel writing. I could see a little bit of that come through on the 10th movie. That's just a little list of things. Things like these mean nothing unless they create something meaningful. Kyler has a master's degree in communications and creative writing. Caleb has a dual bachelor's degree in film and marketing. And these are just a list of things. So honestly, you want art. This is true. You want it to be great. You dare to dream of faith-based art. It reminds you that God is close. And now a decade later, they're pushing into a new version of the same world they've succeeded in many times, inspired by other creatives, not the least of which is The Chosen. You guys, I'm sure, as you intimated to me, one of you earlier in our texting guy, Kyler, that the work that they've done there has been amazing. Dallas Jenkins has inhabited the Christian and faith-based cinema landscape. They intend to bring stories to life that will inspire, encourage, and build faith. And they want you, when you see the film, The 10th, if you haven't, it's free on YouTube. There goes Caleb, gonna get him back. You guys keep going. What is this, plans or something? Planned comedy. But listen, as I was texting Kyler earlier, I watched it. I always like to watch the film at least twice before we do an interview. So it's fresh in my spirit, man. And I've got to say, you know something is good when it hits you in the feels. And it did again. I'm like trying to eat my supper. And you know, my allergies are acting up. Roman, we want to give Roman kudos for his work. You guys won third place in the film festival down in Orlando, not in North Carolina, in Florida. And Roman won first place in lead actor. Roman is an actor and model based in New York City. And when he's not eating nachos, going on bike rides or swimming, and by the way, congratulations on your Ironman Eagle second place.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's on screen in an acting class, working on something new. The interesting mind of Roman always has him wondering what he can do next. Born and raised in Jersey, he started in theater and fell in love with the craft after graduating from Montclair State with a BA theater studies. He booked a commercial, caught the eye of a talent agency in Philly, and began working jobs for brands like NHL, Comcast, NFL, Xfinity, and more. Made his first television appearance this year, CBS hit show Blue Bloods. I saw the clip you have on your, and I remember that because that's one of my favorite shows. I love Blue Bloods. So
Thank you.
great having you aboard this evening, Roman. Thank you guys for all. So Kyler, you're in Kalamazoo, right?
That's right.
And you're working real estate, and that's going really good, huh, brother?
Real estate's going well. Yeah, I'm teaching still. So I'm a freshman English teacher up at the high school.
Good.
And then sort of after hours, instead of fighting crime, I just go and I sell houses.
Okay, excellent. And Caleb, where are you zooming us from tonight? What do you do on the side?
State College, Pennsylvania. I work at Penn State University in the marketing department.
Cool, awesome,
Doing commercial advertising.
great. And Roman, you're in New York City, the Big Apple, is that right?
Well, I live in New Jersey, but I'm always in New York City,
Okay,
whenever I can be.
all right. Well, guys, let's start with the twins. You're thankful for COVID. I think without COVID, God used something difficult for many of us to open doors that maybe we wouldn't have thought to have opened. For me, Zooming you right now was something I discovered and didn't have. I had radio back in Maine, radio in Massachusetts, radio in Missouri. Couldn't find anything close by here that I could also pastor with. And we did Zoom for church. I'm thinking, wow. So here we are as a product of that time that a lot of us spent in-house. And I know that with some of the things that you guys are sharing when you got your award, that COVID kind of led to the creation of this film, The 10th. Is that correct? Kyler?
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know. I just think it's one of the major themes of the Bible is that whenever believers go through times of pressing, times of persecution, um, I think the real thing comes out. I think you bear fruit in and out of season. And for Caleb and I, it was a lot of unknowns. It was a lot of darkness, and I'll let him share just a little bit from his own story and his own perspective, what it was like going through some of those days for him, because it was certainly much more strenuous than it was for me and my family. But I think at the end of the day, my brother and I kind of came back to this question of how can we use this time to, one, use our giftings that God has put in us, and two, to kind of dream a little bit and to say, what if we ever, got together and made something? How would we even go about doing that? That would be really expensive. How could we pull that off? And it's kind of the dreaming stage turned into actionable steps. My brother kept on saying over and over, we just got to get the script done. Just get the script done. And I was, what if we did this? What if we did that? We got to do the script. And he has the saying that he says, truck. And he might be able to talk to you a little bit about that too. It's sort of an ADHD calling card. Get on focus. So
Okay.
finishing that first draft of the script was a big deal for us.
Yeah, and that sounds like a priority as a lead-in, because if you get that down, you feel a sense of accomplishment. But there, it also gives you a way forward, and then all the other pieces come in. Is that right? Go ahead, Caleb, and share with us.
Yeah. So, I mean, thankful for COVID. I think that's, there's sensitivity around a phrase like that. I think for us, it was, my wife and I were operating a wedding business. Our last wedding we had done, she was the wedding planner and I was doing film at the wedding. And it was some of the kids who are children of owners of the Steelers. And so we got to really just put like a ton of work into this wedding. And we had 9 people there with my business that we got to hire. And there was just something fascinating about that experience and being with people in like the most joyful part of their life. And my wife actually that week had felt a lump and realized, that she needed to get in and get checked out. And just an unbelievable God story, 3 different tests, all telling her, you're fine, everything's good. We had just had a baby. We had a 1-year-old. She was breastfeeding. And she just didn't feel peace in her spirit. Finally asked for a biopsy to be done. And they found a lemon-sized tumor that she had developed pretty rapidly. We were able to get it taken care of. We got surgery. She started chemo right. I mean, her first round of chemo, the nurses started running around. They said, the president's coming on and announced that we were entering into a global pandemic. And, of course, we didn't know anything at that point. All I knew was get toilet paper. Like apparently toilet paper is going to protect us in this season we're going into. And really it was a moment where I realized life ends. Life will end. I was 29 years old, really had continued to serve Jesus, I think, since as far back as I could remember. And this was the first time where I realized, like, okay, this is really temporary. It's a breath. It's a vapor. And if I leave behind anything, I want to leave behind a legacy of really loving Jesus, being a good father. But when I look at my brother, Kyler, we're so passionate about good art and good storytelling. And we love the Bible. And it's like, right over the pandemic, we watched the first episode of The Chosen or Called You by Name and You Are Mine. And that moment just sent chills, just wrecked me. And I just wept for like 45 minutes. And when I finally picked myself back up, I was like, oh, okay. So like, this Dallas Jenkins guy, he's really putting his best foot forward. He's doing something I've never seen before, which is making these authentic characters with really compelling sort of characteristics and failures. They're imperfect and they are weak and they need Jesus. And it's all of these things that I was feeling stirred up in my heart in that moment of like, and I'd never experienced weakness like I was going through at that point.
Yeah.
And I just have to say about my wife, you know, she watched full time 2 kids while she was going through chemo and radiation, because we couldn't let anybody in the house because we didn't know if they're, you know, if it could possibly end her life. And so, you know, her strength, I think, was just unfathomable in that season. And Kyler and I started talking like, let's do some stuff. And I went to her and she was supportive, and we started getting online and like, okay, we got to find some actors. We got to find some people, like some real heavy hitters. And we started looking through the ranks and came across this fresh face. And I was like, dad gum, he's handsome.
Put a
He looked
beard
like
on
a-
him.
Yeah.
He looks like one of the characters, you know, and we'd already known the actress Sarah from previous work. And
Okay.
you know, just we wrote this script for David, and it's a 60-minute sort of pilot episode, and then we went and worked on another project which we called The Sign, and finished that script, and we just got back to it, and we realized both of these projects are going to take, you know, over $100,000 to shoot. Let's zone it in. Let's focus it in,
Mhm.
come up with a short story that we can, you know, try and pool our money together
Mhm.
and really optimize with as many favors as possible. And that's kind of what led to the 10th.
Wow.
Kyler and I both are very open about our just amazing love for the Prince of Egypt. And we love the story of Moses, and we are just fascinated by, but we thought like, let's look at some people that we normally don't see, you know, the people that are sort of in the background of that story, as you see these giants
Mhm.
battling and waging war, Moses and Pharaoh, and hail from the sky and God striking the land. And these are just these people just like getting blown just back and forth, like, just holding on for dear life. And we just love this idea of like, okay, the 10th plague's coming. It's the angel of death. You've got to paint blood above your doorpost to survive. What? Like that's crazy. Like that, imagine just
Yeah.
your, like, now you have to figure out what does that even mean? Like, and so that's kind of what led to, I think, starting the story.
That's very good. And I just want to say, and then I want to talk to have Roman share with us his feelings when he first got a call from you guys. I read the script, but for me, watching it that second time, you're right. It with all this, the typical Hollywood production, Ben-Hur, Ten Commandments, British accents, all that. This is just so, it zeroes right into the earthly experience of two anonymous people. It really makes you think that it must have been difficult for a number of Jewish people to find the spotless lamb. And the way that it's written and the way that is acted by all the actors, but particularly Sarah and Roman, you feel the weight of what they're going through and their back and forth dialogue. That's part of what makes you weep, because, and it really is three-dimensional, because when it comes to the resolution of things, it's that much more appreciated because of what you walk through with them on the screen. And it's hard to believe it's 25 minutes. I mean, you guys, I do want to ask the question, and I asked this of Chris Zaleski, who did the film documentary, Theirs is a Kingdom. It's a true story set in North Carolina. How did you edit all the stuff that you had? It took 2 years to film that, about a fresco painting there at a church in Asheville. But it's a question I have too in my own writing. Like, I'm finding it easier, but it's never easy to throw stuff out when you're so joined to all that. And so I want to get to that some point. But Roman, when you got the call, were you out of work? What was your situation?
Well, I'm constantly auditioning for different projects for TV, film, commercials. And then I see this message in my inbox about like, hey, I just want to let you know, are you taking anything to read? Are you taking any scripts to read?
Okay.
And that was like the first time someone reached out to me asking me if I was taking on scripts to read. I was like, I only heard that in Entourage, reading, watching Entourage. So when I saw that message, I was like, oh wow, yeah, I can read something. And they sent me the script and they talked to me a little bit about who they were, what they did,
Mhm.
and I've gotten like non-solicited material and people saying, oh, like let's collab, but
Mhm.
that's it. And then Kyler and Caleb, they came and they said, let's collab. Here's what we do. This is what we do. And they provided something physical, not just saying let's collab.
Mhm.
And that's why I decided to just kind of explore it more, because I realized, oh wow, like that right there already showed me that they had a plan. They
Mhm.
were more organized than let's say other first time filmmakers and stuff. So I said, you know what? I said, yeah, I would love to read the script. And I read the script.
Mhm.
And reading it, it goes back to seeing all these stories and hearing all these stories in the Bible and all these faith-based films, to being able to focus in and hone on the people who actually went through it.
Yeah.
That really captured my attention, because I always think about, we're all sitting right here, but no one knows what we're doing unless it's being filmed.
Mhm.
And now we get to see in the story what these two, a newly father and mother had to go through to protect their baby, their child.
Yeah.
And being able to read that, and not only read it, but the way that they wrote the script,
Hmm.
I'm a very big like visualize, when it comes to visualization, I'm very in tune with being able to see things visually.
Sure.
And reading this, I just, it came to me so naturally where I was reading and I was just chuckling, because I was like, I feel like I know how this is going to be filmed. I can see the camera angles and see how this can be brought to life. I still didn't know how. I was like, I don't know how much money it's going to take to make this film, but it looks good.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really nice to get that opportunity.
Yeah, you did amazing. I could feel the anguish in your own acting, trying to hold on to your faith while trying to
Mhm.
convince the wife that and encourage her at the same time. The tension of that would
Yeah.
have been difficult, and you brought that out in a perfect way. And Sarah, I don't know why she didn't win World War II, because she certainly showed the depression that she was in, then the
Mhm.
anger, and all the elements of depression. A lot of people think, well, when somebody's down and depressed, no, there's a lot going on emotionally, like doubt and skepticism all out there, kind of sarcasm. And she's struggling with her dad, losing her dad in the storyline. We don't want to say a whole lot, but by now, how many people do you guys have a ticker on the free YouTube showing of the 10th, where you get an idea who has watched it?
Yeah, so we just last week signed a contract. It's going to be leased out, and so we'll actually be streaming the short film. So we have an agreement with it where it's gone unlisted, but I think we were just trending around just over 4,000 views. The cool part about this, and I want to say a couple of things about well, just a couple of things really quickly. I want to mention, so Roman talks about, we reached out and said, are you reading scripts? Like Kyler and I, we wanted to go into this experience and sort of have a holistic, a professional experience, right? Not two guys who are just trying to throw something together.
Right.
We wanted to treat this like this project was worth millions of dollars, because to us, it really was worth so much. Like this experience together, pulling this off. I mean, we started prepping a year and a half in advance for a 2-day shoot, which is what we ended up filming for. And so, it really was treating the actors with the utmost respect, trying to identify, are they on board for something like this? But are they also willing to play ball? I'll say this about the anguish. It was hot. It was really hot. We had a heat wave go through, literally just missed a hurricane by a day, almost blew the set over. We got video of that we'll have to share with you.
Yeah.
And we were in a barn with a big cow pasture right next to it. These cows would come in and they were stinky, flies. You could hear them mooing just right there. It was smelly. I mean, we shoved like 10 crew members into this, this tiny little box. You never really get the sense of like there's 20 people
No, you don't.
right off camera.
Yeah.
But if you ever see some of our behind the scenes footage, like it was spicy. And the thing I can say about Sarah and Roman, like, man, they showed up and they really treated it professionally. And that's what we needed. Like we needed someone to come in with the same amount of heart and interest to pull this off and give it legs. Like, you know, because we came in with a budget of just over $4,000. We knew we had 2 days to film it.
Mhm.
And, you know, it was essentially 2 18-hour days,
Mhm.
2 16-hour build days before the 2 18-hour days, and then, you know, a full 12-hour tearing down after that. And it was, to say it was anguish, I mean, we put everything,
Mhm.
I mean, everything into getting this project put together. And, you know, we didn't want to just collaborate with Roman. We really respected him and his heart and his interest, and he even supported us. He helped us find Tyler, which ended up being you know, the father character.
Mhm.
You know, it almost kind of co-produced it with us,
Wow.
coming in from that angle of being an actor, but also just being what we call him, our brother at this point. Like, you know, when we text, it's like, brother, you're like, what's going on? You know, and he's finding some really great success at this point now as well. And we want to hang on to those threads that we've, you know, kind of connected with. And
Mhm.
I mean, he's going to be in some really cool stuff coming out, I bet.
Oh, good. We look forward to keeping an eye on all your careers, actually. Tyler, were you the principal writer of the script with your background in creative writing and so forth?
So the way that my brother and I handle it is that we're co-writing, which means there's not an edit that isn't drafted by both of us. There
Okay.
could be primary edits where Caleb is doing 75, 80%, and then it kicks back to me. I'll
Mhm.
do 75 and 80%. And it's just kind of this process of like, really, it's a lot of text message threads where Caleb and I are going, bro, you gotta, like, I just had this thought, and then
Okay.
what if this happens? What if that
That's good.
happens?
Yeah.
And then we find ourselves kind of just, you know, at the beginning of the day, I might see more of the blank white space than Caleb does,
Yeah.
but he's writing just as much as I am. And so it's a really fascinating thing because we received that question quite a bit
Hmm.
as identical twin creators. I think a lot of people try to figure out, oh, you know, what roles are you handling? What roles are your brother handling? And the really wonderful thing about what Jesus did in making us is that, short of editing, I can't edit to save my life. We really are both 100%. And that's the amazing thing, is that I think there's a trust, a mutual trust in our taste and our understanding of creative work that allows us to both play 100%. And so I wouldn't call myself necessarily the primary writer, although it certainly helped to have a couple of novels in my background. Whenever I approached the script, it was very visually because that's my background, and that helped Roman. That's going to help us really find footing in our next projects as well, I think, is the way that I see it. But then Caleb comes at it from this cinematic quality. He has the background in actually creating film. And so it's in a really beautiful way. It's kind of like we get the best of both worlds.
Hmm. And you
Yeah,
can see that.
The cheat code, man. It's just a cheat code.
Cheat code. Is that a term you both have used for each other? You know,
Cheat code?
yeah,
That's what I was
cheat
yeah.
code. Okay. Some kind of Chico.
Cheat code.
Okay. So the way God has wired you, you guys bounce off each other's creative energies and juices that the Lord has kind of inculcated into you. I'm thinking of a conversation I had with Chad and Carrie Hayes back in 2017. They wrote the scripts for all the Conjuring movies, and they're really strong Christians. And I think they would probably agree with you and say the same thing. They're twins. They would go back to the Doublemint gum commercial days. And so where one is thinking one thing, they'll share it, and it's like, oh, I was just thinking. So I'm sure a lot of that happened between the two of you, and you can really feel it. Now, let's talk about the edits. When did you feel like something was too much and we don't need that? Or was it maybe easier this time through and maybe some of the other things you'd started?
Yeah, Caleb, do you want to take that? And then I have a couple things that I'll say too.
Well, the edit on this was an all-out blitz to get it done as soon as possible. I set a very unrealistic post-production timeline because I
Caleb,
just
I think he's talking about the copyright edit, so the script edit. Like
Yeah.
how did we know if we wanted to add more characters or cut
Right.
characters?
More
I
dialogue.
see.
Yeah, yeah.
I see. Yeah. No, so we had written a script and then COVID kind of ramped back up and we knew we had to postpone. I'm still waiting for my wife to get, better and we came back to the script after a couple months and I think we both knew that there had to be another layer added in while also fitting it into our timeline of keeping it a short format story. We also knew we wanted arcs, like we wanted character resolutions to happen. We wanted major sort of plot points that kind of get pulled throughout. We wanted to just maximize everything we could. And so I think it was constantly looking back over the script and trying to figure out where can we add little details,
Mhm.
flourishes to make it
Yeah.
feel rounded.
And I'll say this, the first run through, something that Caleb and I were very sensitive of, and this might sound surprising as a faith-based film and faith-based content. I think Caleb and I both get irritated whenever something is see-through or whenever it feels hollow.
Mhm.
Whenever a character's motivations, where the audience kind of goes, I don't know about that. I think in our first script, that was Adana's character. She was atheist, right? She doesn't believe in God. She's anti-God. She makes comments that are anti-God, but it almost just comes out of this like naggy wife, always upset.
Yeah.
And Caleb and I started saying, well, what would make someone lose their faith in God, or what would make someone be so anti-God? And
Mhm.
how can we tell an authentic story where we're not just straw manning,
Mm.
which I think sometimes faith-based creators have the tendency to do. They write these characters as kind of like, the big stereotypical one is kind of the atheist philosophy teacher that, it's the first day of class and all the kids come in and there's a Christian in there and they're like, stop believing in God, and it's like, oh, I'm persecution,
Yeah.
but like Caleb and I really wanted to tell a story where even Christians could go, oh, you know what? I can see how it would be hard to believe in God if 400 years of slavery. Go ahead.
Well, just let me interrupt you, see what I'm thinking, what you're thinking, and maybe I'm all wet and kind of behind that, but the backstory of why somebody would be agnostic or atheistic.
Yes.
So you pull that in after the fact
Yes.
with her dad.
Yeah, so-
Oh, wow, that's powerful, and it makes
Yeah.
sense.
So we didn't have a backstory for Adana. She was just kind of negative and didn't believe in God and didn't believe. And Caleb and I went, she needs to have a reason. We need actually. So you start off feeling like Nu is just the champion and the warrior, and he's gonna have faith no matter what.
Roman.
And surprisingly,
Yeah.
really the protagonist of the film is Adana because she's us.
It's true.
We lack faith
Yeah.
in really important moments. We are the ones that don't deserve the lamb to come through the door. We are the ones sitting at the table that say, if there's going to be a plague tonight, we deserve it. And yet God spares us. His grace spares us. And so Nu is actually, in a really wonderful way, sorry, Roman, not the relatable character in this story. Although there are certainly men that hold to the faith throughout the Bible, and men that are, I think the vast majority of Christians know what it's like to say, if he's real, he's laughing at us. I think every Christian has had a moment where their suspicion goes up and they go, I don't know if God wants me to be happy. I don't know if he wants me to win. I don't know if he wants me to enjoy this life.
Hmm.
And if he's real, how come he doesn't? Asking those hard questions.
Yes. Yeah.
I do have to say there's the scene where Nu runs in through the door and he throws the bowl down and he's just kind of questioning it. And there was just one line where he said, I'm trying so hard. Like
Yeah.
Roman, man, the first couple of takes of that was like spitting and he had snot coming out of his nose. And I was like, bro,
Yes.
feel you
Yes.
are at your wit's end. We got to get rid of some of that snot if we're gonna. That's a little distracting. He's like, okay, cool, cool, cool. He came back in, and it's just like the way he does it. I'm trying so hard. Like I felt like, man, I understood that. That felt like me, especially in that season where it's like, man, I really do want to be the man of the household and have faith and be unrelenting in my pursuit of like Christ-like suffering. I want to do that, but I just kept failing. I just kept being so selfish. I just kept, and like that, I think that line to me really hits deeply. And yeah, I think both characters have their moments where you go, yeah, I've been there.
Yeah,
Like
I
especially
agree.
if you're married.
Well, let me ask you this, if as you read the script and then the first few times acting that out, do you have a way that you go back in your mind to something difficult to help you relate to that? Or do you just relate to the story because was so well written that you didn't need to think about something difficult that maybe you had gone through that could help you portray that anguish and that I'm trying really hard? Do you use any devices like that? Like I know some people say, well, they think of something sad so they can cry for real. I mean, do you as an actor do any of that kind of thing?
For me, like, I don't think there was a specific experience that was like, okay, cool. I know when I get to the scene, I'm going to pull on this. I think honestly, like it was so well written to where as I was reading it, I could feel the emotions of these characters. And I said, like I have a dog that I actually want him for $25. He's 14 years old. Like I always think like if I had to protect him, and there has been times where I've lost him before and I need to go find him because he doesn't usually wear collars. And like in those moments of stuff, I just think, what would I do in the test of like trying to make sure that my family knows like, okay, we're going to bring our family dog back, or are we going to lose him without me being, so all over the place.
Right.
And I think for this specific moment, I wanted to give up, but I couldn't because even though I wanted to just go on the side, sit on the floor, I can't. I have a newborn that I have to protect. And I think even though I don't have a child, knowing to have a responsibility where I have to step up, even when I feel teared down, it was just, I felt very overwhelming in my chest and my shoulders and my back. And it's just, I feeling all that energy up here, I needed to release it. And I think that's what helped me bring that moment.
Too, Ralph, there was a couple moments on set where I just felt like it was really tense in a really good way. You could feel a palpable stress of just everybody. We were on a timeline. We needed to get these shots done. Some of them early in the morning, some of them late at night. It was hot. We even bought a tent we had to put over the set at one point. It just felt like a sauna. And there was this experience where we just let Roman and Sarah both go sit and just take 15 minutes. We were on a timeline, but take 15 minutes and imagine this is where you're raising your firstborn, your first child. Like, this is what you have in life. This is what life has to offer you. And just embody that. And I think it was really incredible to see some of the emotional connection they were able to make because of, just that experience and that moment. And both of them were, I think, really apt to take a lot of direction as well. I mean, Kyler and I were down in their face sometimes, just like this. And man, they were just hitting it a little bit more. I want to see, we kept telling Sarah just during her fight scene where we want to see more of your teeth. I know this is going to sound weird, but we got to see those teeth. Like,
if you've ever been married, the teeth come out. That's just real.
Oh, teeth. Like, I can't. Yeah. And there was, I think, some authenticity there, just with those little details, where, we start setting up a teaser, for to show the world what this is going to look like.
Mm.
Our older brother Josh, he's a crane operator. He's not in the film or anything. He saw the first teaser trailer and he was like, "Oh snap!" Like he was like, "What is this? Is like a thriller, and these people are upset, and like it's not campy Christian
No.
in the ways that I think
Yeah.
people have come to expect a story like this to be told."
Yeah, you know what I think has probably made, I'm sure there's several reasons, but Christian film not as well done is there's such an effort to promote the message
Yes.
and the authenticity of the characters, and the message doesn't come over like the people want it to because they haven't developed the characters and the plot hasn't been realistic. So when God speaks to her, that's when I lost it. And I didn't see it coming. Although I knew with you guys that would be there because your faith and all. But by the time that prophetic word, it's not even prophetic, it's God speaking, and then he comes in with a lamb, you really do lose it in an authentic way in the fields because, and you didn't, it's like you didn't even know you were with those characters in that intimate space, but you are, it's like, and then let me just say this, it's got to be a good film or anything that's good. I started out when we get on board here, when it hits you in the fields, but here's this, when you can relate that moment, that moment in the film to what you're going through. And I didn't expect that in the second watch. I really didn't. But for me, without going into detail, this has been a difficult year for my wife and I. God's getting us through, but we've been through some struggles and trials. It's like
That's what this is for. That's what this is for.
but
Is people to identify and say,
yeah, you wouldn't
like-
have thought about it because obviously my wife and I, we've had our kids have grown. We not necessarily relate to that particular story, but the humanness of it, the humanity, the struggle that we all go through of being screwed up and going through a broken life and knowing that God is still there to redeem, and it's, yeah. So
Roman, why don't you talk a little bit about your experience being at the Short Film Festival? And because I noticed you perked up when he said that, because Roman had a very specific experience. He pulled us aside because he got there a day before we did, and he's like, "Listen, guys."
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that's what also made me like reading the script. In the script, it didn't physically say in words like, you have to believe him for him to be there, or you have to do this in order to receive this. It was, the story told itself while spreading the message without trying to say, you need to believe in this right now. This is how it's supposed to be done.
Yeah.
This allowed me to, even like watching it, like when we got to watch it together, I was able to sit as an audience member and explore the story of, sometimes you might not even know he exists or is helping, and that doesn't mean he's not there. There's
Right.
people that I encounter that they're like, oh, I don't believe him, or I'm not a believer, I don't do this, I don't do that. And that's why I never try to push God on anyone, but allow them to give them a space to be open to receiving. And I think being in this film and acting along Adana, and the context of it is getting someone to love so hard, you want them to be on your side. If I'm going on a trip, I want you to come with me.
Mhm.
When in the reality of it, I'm trying so hard, but at the same time, I also provided a space to let Adana realize when that lamb comes in, it's like, I give her that silence, that loud silence that allows her to say, oh my gosh, he is real. He must be real. And I think that's what I really loved about this film in particular, being a faith-based film. I didn't feel like it wasn't a lasso to say, come here, you have to believe in this. It was, look what can happen even if you don't see him.
Yeah.
The flashback.
That's awesome, Roman.
Thank you for sharing that. The flashback as well, even after that point, and there were a few of them up to that, I guess, apex or plot, top of the plot there, in terms of the events come to fruition, where she sees her dad and the music and the song, and then he names the child. I mean, it was just so beautiful. It's like the denouement, and it was every bit as satisfying as the moment when God speaks to her and the lamb comes in.
Yeah.
Wow.
I wanted to say something real quick about what Roman was just saying about the lasso. you know, the grace of God and salvation is a gift that's given to us from God. It's not something that we pursue first.
Mhm.
And so Caleb and I even we have a love for the line where Roman's character New even kind of tries to shame his wife at a moment. Where is the wife that was so full of faith that
Yeah.
I married?
Yeah.
Where's that woman?
Yeah.
And it's what we all do. It's
Sure.
what we do when we're at our wits' end, where we go, you know
Oh.
what? Everything else has failed. I'm just going to try to shame her.
Mhm.
And I love it because in traditional Christian media, there should have been some sort of recognition and sorrow and repentance occur right there. But instead, she comes back, she's dead, the
Mm.
same as her father and the
Yeah.
same as her husband will be. And it's like, it didn't work.
No, it doesn't work.
What do we do as Christians whenever we put it out there? The gospel's out there and it should be a home run. But guess what? This isn't Acts. This isn't the book of Acts where everything is smashed out of the park. This is real life where sometimes people go, no thanks.
Yeah.
Then you go, but Jesus is still working.
Yes, he is.
He's
Yeah.
still moving. He's still intending to move on the heart,
Yeah,
even whenever we fail.
Yeah.
and to tie to that, we see this scene where Adana's with her baby, and you know, there is that anguish of, I know I'm raised to teach this baby these truths.
Mhm.
And you see her sort of wafting in and out of that religious, and then that tradition of, I'm raised to teach my kids about who God is. And you can kind of see her doing that. And like, she says a thing and then she's like, but I don't know. And she's able to be transparent with this baby because she thinks this baby's probably going to die. I need to tell it about God. I do want to be good. I just can't be good.
Mhm.
And until God comes
Amen.
in and opens up the door, right? That's that sequence
Yes.
where you hear the knock, which is actually on the outside of the hut. Somebody's brought a sheep to provide for the family, but that knock is also God knocking on Adonai's heart to say, okay, I've showed up. Now I'm opening you to receive this now, right? There's a timing here. We can't open the door to salvation. Only God can do that. But we can present the gospel in a positive, just hopeful way, filled with love. But until God does that, right? And in that moment, you see, you know, she kind of falls back against the wall and oh no, like, and then, you know,
Yeah.
fear
Mhm.
kicks in, because when
It's
you
the
realize
law.
Yeah.
God is real,
Right.
you've broken the law. Uh-oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. It was real. It was real because it's human and we go through that. Why hide who we are, right? And you guys certainly did with the characters. As we wrap things up, I want to get to what you got some projects. I want you to talk about that. But Roma, what's on your docket for the next few months and what does God have you doing?
For the next few months, I have a group of other collective artists that I've been working on for our first short film. We have been in the process of collaborating, writing, and setting our foot into the world that Caleb and Kyler was able to show me. To see them, kind of pull this off and just have a group of people actually commit to doing something. I was able to meet my group of people to say, you know what? We have writers, we have directors, we have actors. Let's see what we can make. So we're in the process right now of creating a short film to hopefully pitch it for an episodic series.
Oh, that's
Thank you. Along with obviously auditioning for TV, film, commercials, and stuff as well.
great. Well,
Yeah.
God bless you in that effort. We'll stay in touch.
Yes,
we
definitely.
lost Kyler for a moment, but Caleb, tell us what you guys have in store.
That's why it's great to be a twin, man. You never miss a beat, dude. I know exactly what Kyler would say. So we have got a script that has been finished for 2.5 years, and we've just been revising. It is technically in the financing pre-production stage. So we're having meetings with a couple different interested parties to kind of walk through the script, talk about it, try and identify, what our niche is going to be, because we're very fascinated with the supernatural, with kind of like this. We obviously love the Bible. We're gonna tell the story of King David. It's called David: A King's Calling,
Yeah.
and we're going to be looking at 8 episodes, but we're just going to start really focusing in on our first episode, where David gets anointed by the prophet to become king. And again, you know, there's so many layers to this story that we feel like have never been told in a way that really brings justice to the Bible.
Mhm.
And so, like, we're fascinated by it. We're in love with the story. We're in love with these characters. We're super pumped to get that out there. We've gotten some quotes from production companies. You know, we're identifying even. I've got a location set up. We know where we're going to film at. Really, it's just about being able to pull the funds together for it. And God's already starting to do some really interesting and exciting things. And it's going to be pretty funny because, you know, if it works, I think it's going to be in the ballpark of $150,000-$200,000 to pull this project off.
Oh,
So start with 4,000, and we just hopefully just keep working our way up.
yeah.
And God provides. But you know, again, it's completely about His provision and His timing, and we're setting on that and saying, you know, this might be 5. You know, Avatar took what, 15 years for them to make that movie. He put it in the desk, and but I'm confident that no one has ever told this story and even remotely like this. It does take a lot from what Dallas Jenkins has done with The Chosen, in identifying people who, you know, aren't in the Bible, but help to tell the story in an authentic way. And you know, it's 7 brothers, so there's a lot of humor, a
Mhm.
lot of razzing and
It probably
joking,
was, yeah. Sure.
and you know, brawls, just, you know, fist fights just breaking out.
Yeah.
And then also just really cool moments where, you know, I think we get to see and experience what it would have been like to be a prophet at this time, where God's presence was terrifying, yet He just chose you, and He constantly descended upon you with His presence. And you know, almost like a PTSD, you know, we see Samuel experiencing this incredible joy and honor to be used by God, but also just an exhaustion of, when will God fix this? When will he make this not so difficult? And clearly reeling from lots of factors going on in this timeline. So we're pumped about it. I don't think we've ever been this excited to get into the casting and pre-production stage as we are right now. But we've shared the script out, gotten some great feedback, which has been, you know, I think you do something sort of in a silo together, me and Kyler. I think if we like the script, we're okay to move forwards. I don't think we really need anybody else to tell us that they like the script, because we're such harsh critics. If we can get past each line and feel like, hey, this is authentic, this feels real, and it feels like it's picking up some real interesting steam, doesn't it, Kyler?
Talking about David?
Yeah,
Yes, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, what we have right now, if we're able to get some people with us, and God brings us the right people on our side, it's going to be, I think it'll be shocking in a good way, in a positive way, in a way that people watch the story. We talked already a little bit about, Caleb, kind of we talked about what the project's going to be at all, or given any kind of
David: A King's Calling. Yeah, just kind of gave him the general scope of, you know, the first episode, 55 minutes of content, is just leading up to David being anointed. We had a meeting and they were like, whoa, it's going to take 8 episodes to get to David versus Goliath. And it's like, yeah, like you got to lay the groundwork for these things. We can't just, hey, David's in a field and then he's at war fighting Goliath. Like that doesn't make any sense. That's not how that works.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. The story is unbelievable. And yet every iteration is told in a way where you go, okay, here comes David. Oh, and there's Goliath, and there's the stone, and there, it's almost like it's this unbelievable story that's told in a believable way. And so my brother and I are really fascinated with also the sort of superhero qualities of David and his mighty men, and the power of God would come upon them and they would do supernatural things. And even just the way that, the Marvel Cinematic Universe tells some of these character stories in ways that are really beautiful, but also awe-inspiring. And my brother and I were talking and we're going, man, you got Samuel who's dipping in and out of the spiritual realm.
Yeah, big time.
Why? Like most tellings of Samuel, he's just kind of turns his eyes upward and he hears a voice in his head and then he looks back at the Israelites. And my brother and I were really fascinated with telling this more like, what if Samuel is living in two realities?
Yeah.
And there's this element of God has put his spirit on him. And so he's able to hear God where others can't. He's able to feel God in a way where others can't. He's having dreams where God is revealing things that are to come 2 years out, 3 years out. There's moments where God won't tell him what to do, just where to go. Hey, grab some of these berries, on your way. So he grabs the berries, he walks into town, start mashing the berries. So he's mashing the berries, and then a little girl trips and falls in front of him and he puts the berries and it's a perfect antiseptic to what she needs. And it's like, and this is day in, day out. It's the life of walking with God at that time would have been. And the other thing is he would have been kind of socially outcast from other people.
Yeah.
Because he's walking with God in such a way that people are nervous around him. They're not able to be authentic with him. And he's following Jesus. He's dedicated by his mother at a young age. And so socially, there's some strange things that happen that culminate in this character coming alongside and mentoring David. And we're going to have some real fun with it.
That sounds good.
So
The other, I mean, we could probably write an entire project just about Samuel.
Oh, for sure.
We feel like Eliab is a huge presence, the oldest brother that gets passed up and, signs up to go to war to fight for honor, to try and gain back, okay, his brother's going to be king. That doesn't mean I can't be this kick butt warrior, right? And then he's going out to the field and he's terrified and he won't step forward. And here comes his brother.
Wow. That's gonna be
And that the dramatic undertones of the self-failure and lack of confidence and just deep anger and just maligning this brother of yours that is everything that you're not, because he's just chosen to be. And father's trying to navigate all of these things. We know he killed a bear with his bare hands, so that's going to be in the show.
That'll be interesting.
And we're gonna really, I think, go after it, man. We want to tell it in a way where we kind of talk like our main audience is going to be like middle school to 32-year-old boys, just like, this is crazy, like, you got to see this.
Well, you might need another Iron Eagle Man winner to be that David to kill a bear. Right?
We got plans.
All right, we won't say a whole lot more, but one thing I know that you won't do is sanitize the life of David, as so many movies have, or even the Christendom has sanitized him. I mean, look at what he did with Bathsheba. And I'm just going to put that out there, but just a year or two ago, I had to relook at what happened there. And last time I knew, it took two to tango. This wasn't adultery. It was worse than that. And yet God forgave him. But not a lot of people want to talk about that maybe David raped her. But I'm like, wow.
And there's elements of this.
Yeah.
There's elements of that in our story too, that even show it probably likely was a situation where, David didn't just suddenly start struggling in these areas. And it's likely it could have been in his family and it could have been other men. And it could have been this thing that, because no one is stepping up and squashing this sin, no one's speaking out against it. It has time and room and on top of this, I can't imagine being a young teenager. Like, you see what happens to these Disney stars today.
Hmm.
These kids don't make it out.
No.
They're mentally not healthy. They're broken. They're hurting. And for David, he knows he's going to be king. He's thrust into the limelight of a whole nation as a 14, 15-year-old
Yeah.
at the very time where a lot of people want to be seen.
Mhm.
And,
Married
you
to
know,
the king's daughter.
Yeah. All these.
what do you do there? What do you do with that? So,
Exactly. Wow.
Yeah, we're fascinated with the story, and I think we're hyped to
you're
tell
absolutely
it.
right.
Yeah.
He will not be sanitized. It will be an
Right.
authentic telling where you both root for him and sometimes he's the villain. And that's humanity.
That's right.
So,
It's the Bible. Really is the Bible. Okay.
Yep.
Are you going to release them kind of like with the Chosen, the way they do it? And so that you keep people's attention and then
I think the way that we're looking at it right now, Ralph, that's a great question. It really depends on the partners that we get to come alongside of us. And it also depends on Jesus kind of working some situations out, we'll say, that would allow for us to have that kind of bandwidth or ability.
great. Well, maybe we could do a round two when you feel like you're in a place where you need to promote it a little bit more. You're getting close to the end or the middle. But I want to pray for you guys. We always pray for our guests. What's your wife's name, Caleb? We want to
Tara.
figure out how's she doing with the cancer then?
She's actually out at Johns Hopkins today, getting some more tests done.
Okay.
So far, so good. You know, she's had a lot of good tests since, you know, she finished her chemo and radiation, but they're keeping a close eye on a couple of things, and she's definitely had a lot of pain since the chemo kicked up a lot of like immune system problems. So
You say your name is Tara, T-A-R-A.
Sarah, Sarah.
Good. All right. Anything you guys have to pray for, Kyler? Anything specific? Just the Lord to bless this project.
You know,
Yeah.
Ralph, yeah, absolutely. That he would bless the projects, but I think just in general that God would glorify himself through our life. And if that means blessing this project, amen. And if it means shutting it off and snuffing out the candle, then we'll move on and we'll go somewhere else. But I think God has really shown us that he's directing this in some cool ways. And maybe if we have another opportunity, we'll talk a little bit about that. We've had some checks show up in the mail randomly from people we haven't talked to in decades, and some conversations with people that have connections that are really excited about this. And there's no, Caleb and I are nobodies. We're no ones. The only thing that we are, Ralph, is the unwise, the foolish that God uses to glorify himself. And so, you know, we're not connected with anyone. Our father ran heavy machinery and our mom was a nurse for a little bit. So, and then here comes a desire to make much of God. You know, that's what we do as believers.
And he gets so much more glory when we back
Amen.
off and let him show his stuff. Because God, I like to tell people, he loves to show and tell. He's in the show and tell. Roman, how about you? Anything specific?
I would just say to continue to guide me on this path that I am on right now, and to be able to, like, especially with my acting career, because I want to be able to invoke emotions in people to help change their perspective on how they live their lives, whether it's through God or just them having the confidence to move forward and be able to get them to realize the power that they have within themselves through God, and just able to just accomplish the goals that they want to accomplish. And I want to be able to help that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, let's pray. Lord, this has been so fun. I love our time together. Thank you for Twin Bolt Media. Thank you for these two gentlemen that you've brought together. Yes, Lord, and for such a time as this, Lord, there's such a grassroots effort for people in this next generation to use their gifts and talents for God in such a way, though, that he gets all the glory. And we can just step back and say, thank you, Jesus. And many more sons and daughters can be brought to glory because of that humility and authenticity. So, Father, we pray for Sarah tonight, Lord, that cancer would be completely eradicated for all that she's gone through, and what a trooper that she's been through all of this. and you cared for her and this their family. Thank you for Caleb being the husband and father that he has had to be, and even through this project, Lord, just bless him, bless that family, just touch her and give her encouragement tonight, Lord, as she's at Select Johns Hopkins. Thank you for Roman. Thank you for the connection he's made with these guys. I pray that you bless his career, and thank you for his attitude of wanting to not just use his acting to make a paycheck, but to pay it forward, to bless other people, to help people in difficult situations who are struggling emotionally with whatever, to know that they can do it with your help and that there is hope. And Lord, thank you for my buddy Kyler. Thank you that we can touch base again tonight. Bless him and his family and his work. And Lord, bless this project and let all the monies come through that need to come through for this. And we thank you for our time together. We praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Man,
Bless you guys. We'll
Thank
be
you,
in
sir.
touch. Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.